to explain and little time to explain it, because both Dr. Ben and I are veteran classroom teachers. We're accustomed to bells, so churches are not strange to us, though we don't exactly belong to any. We know something about time. My topic that will be extended by Dr. Ben is a question. What will we tell our children about our fight for freedom? Extended again, what will we tell our children about our role in history? How we survived to this point? When people say we were slaves, what do we tell our children about our slavery in particular and slavery in general? What do we tell our children so they can stop turning their face away and want to crawl under the table when you mention our condition in the world? When will they stop blaming themselves? You have not explained it to them because you have not explained it to yourself. You have to know your oppressor and the nature of his oppression and what you did about it. At what point do we sit down and not argue about TV? At what time do we sit down and tell simple stories about our revolutionary heritage and get it across to our children? We have the longest revolutionary heritage of any people on the face of the earth. We have fought longer and harder and against great odds than any people on the face of the earth. Why do our children not know this? Because if they knew this and if they loved themselves, none of them would put poison in their veins. If they knew this, they would know that a code of conduct is expected of them, that they cannot afford to live selfishly. Their conduct must reflect the best in a whole people. And when someone tried to lead them in ways not of their liking, they should have enough sense of their own selves on this earth to say, we are not a people who engage in things of that nature. We are not a people who demean ourselves in that way. But for them to know this, they have to know what kind of society produced them. Coming out of a collective society, being forced into an individual society in order to survive. And this is an assumption. You think that you must take on the traits of your oppressor, when your role is not to take on the traits of your oppressor. Your role is to prepare to destroy your oppressor.
What will we tell our children? Oh man, when I heard that, I thought that was such a great question for us to dive into on this Friday. Welcome to Breakdown Friday. Joseph Ward, Professor Carl Tone Jones. Pat had some business to take care of, so he couldn't be here. So shout out to Pat though. But you already know how we do. We hold it down this Breakdown Friday. Put your seatbelt on, get your snacks because we're going in. Once again, what will we tell our children?
That's a hell of a
Wow.
question, bro.
But also he in the latter part, he was talking about conduct and a code of conduct. He also talked about our long revolutionary history, teaching our children their history. If our children knew better about who they were, the conduct will be better. Now, what will we tell our children starts with us. It starts with us as the adults, because what stories, what narratives, what tangible things do we have to show our children as far as progression, not regression? Because our stories of glory can't just be stories of the distant past. Stories of glory have to be stories of the near past and the present. So when I hear him asking, what will we tell our children? I start in the mirror. What can I tell the youth about myself? That's what I start with. What can I tell the youth about myself? And then all the other adults, what can you tell the youth about yourself? Because we have to be adding on to our glorious history. We can't just keep trying to live off the glory of our history. How are we adding to this history? Before I go any further, I'm gonna send it to you though, PC. What will we tell our children?
Um, First, we owe them an apology, and I mean that sincerely, because when I first started talking to young people, and with a revolutionary mindset, not just a revolutionary mindset, a liberatory mindset, the first thing I would do is apologize to them, because we we brought them into a world that wasn't prepared for them. We didn't terraform this world so that it would welcome them, and we didn't prepare them for the world in which they did come. And none of them asked to be here.
Mm-hmm.
None of them asked to be here. So we blame them for everything, and we take accountability for nothing. We blame them for their bad decisions. We blame them for their bad demeanor. But we don't take accountability for the fact that it was our job to shape and mold them to be the next generation of leaders, to
Mm-hmm.
be the next generation of innovators. And a lot of that's because we weren't that ourselves, if we want to be honest about it.
Right. Right.
And just speaking collectively speaking, I mean, yeah, we have our individual accolades, and to the to the common eye, they can seem impressive. But I always judge our impact on how it actually impacts the community.
Right.
For instance, when you talk about because I've seen people, you don't know what people are doing, you don't know what people are contributing to, perhaps, but I do know that when our neighborhoods are being gentrified, you don't have to see an announcement, you don't have to see uh, a press conference, you don't even have to know a meeting took place, but you see the difference, you feel the impact.
Yeah.
When you have inflation, nobody has to announce it, but you feel it at the gas pump. You see it at the grocery store when there's a markup of 10% on your items. We have not seen or felt that type of impact in Black spaces. We've seen the opposite.
Well, yeah.
We've seen the impact of violence and crime. And even though it's petty crimes, things of that nature going down, the violent crimes in a lot of areas are going up, especially the areas we live in.
Well,
So I would
yeah,
I would start off with the apology,
yeah,
and try to find means or ways to atone for the fact that we dropped the ball, and the generation before us dropped the ball. And I don't know how long we can go back in that line, but a lot of balls have been dropped,
yeah.
and this is where we are now.
Well, Dr. Clarke, along with a lot of our scholars and master teachers and elders in the past, have talked about the impact of knowledge of self. But nowadays, I think we really have to take a grand self-assessment when we're talking about not just attaining knowledge of self, but applying knowledge of self. Have we truly applied knowledge of self? And I asked that question because, and I'm not gonna say any particular groups or anything like this, but I know what I see. I know the statistics, and like you say, I can see the impact, and I hear about various groups of Black people who have existed throughout the years who have been said to have knowledge of self, but the communities that they exist in went down, and they never owned anything in the communities, right? And so,
Well, hold on. I won't say they didn't own it. They couldn't protect it.
what down here, a lot of folk ain't. I say down here, a lot of folk ain't own stuff. I say that.
Okay.
So now, not to say that it's on them to make the community better, but what we can say is it's 2023 now, and we don't, like you said, we can't see the actual tangible impact, us included.
Mhm.
Us included. Like me and Pat checked a couple like some breakdowns ago. We talked about us. We've acknowledged that we've been a part of putting band-aids on gunshot wounds. We've acknowledged we've also been a part of going out with the intention of making things better, but not really understanding how to be impactful. But that's critical though. Those are the mistakes we made, because that's critical. Because if we want to give our children hope, we want to give our children encouragement, we want to empower our children, we have to be able to tell them stories based off of reality. We have to be able to tell them stories based off of current things, or things, like I said, in the near past that have happened. Can't just keep trying to go back to the ancient times. Yes, we can use those, but what have we done to contribute to it?
Mhm. Yeah, but I think what you're going to have is a lot of people who walk with King.
I mean, that's cool.
I'm just saying, and I'm not saying like I'm saying as youth
Yeah, I
resolution
know.
because I hope I said that right, but I'll be making up words. Y'all know what I meant. So now you had like 2020, and so many people took to the streets. Now those people don't want to tell their children that I was out there in the streets when all that was going on.
Yeah.
I said, but
Yeah.
are you going to tell your children you were out there marching with, these coordinated rallies that the police department was setting up? Are you going to tell them that part?
Well,
Are you going to tell them about how you really stood back and hoped somebody else did all the dirty work?
I
You
mean,
know,
you
and,
know,
and then
those things culminated in a couple people becoming millionaires and buying mansions.
yeah, and a lot of missing money. And
This is what we got to tell this is literally what we have to tell our children right now, because this is what we've been doing.
but
Which
I
is
don't.
sad.
It is sad, but I think if we actually cared about our children, just the emotional knee jerk, oh, that's my child, that's my baby. No, but if we actually cared about our children, then you would see a lot more energy put into providing a future for our children.
Right.
Meaning damn it happened again.
Yeah, yeah. Say that again. Say that again.
I said, so you won't be just taking your son to the basketball court, teaching them how to, shoot a layup and dribbling skills and or taking your son out to the football field or and you won't be teaching your daughter how to do her hair and all that other stuff. I mean, that's part of growing up, but that's not laying a foundation for their future. You know, we are very comfortable in our oppression, so we haven't done as much to work our way out of it, and at a scary time because you know it's like what we tell our children. We tell them the truth. I
We
don't
have
I
to.
don't care about you, and you're on your own. And I mean, and it's a harsh reality because, like I said, most people don't want to acknowledge that truth because it really shows them for the piece of what they become that they are in regards to their children. But if you didn't build a foundation for your child, if you think your child is going to function well in this world without you help, networking and creating opportunities for them, starting businesses and starting institutions and creating institutions that are going to last more than a generation, finding ways that we can have access to food and land and just the basic tenets of the bottom of Maslow's hierarchy of needs. When you don't find, when you can't provide food, shelter, protection, and a form of access to some form of income or residual income, then you don't give a damn about your children. You didn't
Right.
do anything to protect your futures of your children.
Right.
And therefore your grandchildren and so forth will just be a byproduct of your offspring. But at the same time, tell them the damn truth. Hey, listen, I brought you in this world, but after a certain amount of time, I just sent you out. What's that phrase in the Bible? Behold, I release you a sheep amongst the wolves. That's what we need to tell
Well, the phrase "getting it out the mud" has become popularized, and it's almost as if it's not almost. It's become a phrase of honor to have gotten it out the mud. And yeah, we praise anybody who get out the mud, but we still shouldn't be getting it out the mud in our generation. And then the generation under us still shouldn't be getting it out the mud. And their generation under them still shouldn't be getting it out the mud. Because like you say, a foundation, we never rebuilt the foundations that we did build in the past that were torn down by white people. We never rebuilt them. I'm not going to say we never built them because we have. We just didn't rebuild them. A similar one of the things he talked about was when you don't have that knowledge of self and that knowledge hasn't been taught to you, you start to assimilate to the people. You don't take on the characteristics of your oppressor. You got to beat your oppressor.
Yeah.
So for that, because it just the individualistic stuff. We are so individualistic now that we have no choice but to lean on stories of the distant past because the individualism has tore us apart so much that we don't have enough collective victories or any collective victories to tell our children. And then they, the notion, do what I say, not what I do. That's not how you rock as an adult, as a leader. They got this, they're gonna watch what you do and mimic what you do. The elders before us, we saw what they did. Ones under us, they seeing what we're doing. It's a cycle of unproductive stuff that we keep doing. That's unfortunately, we shouldn't have to keep telling our kids these same stories. Our kids shouldn't have to keep saying these things. Like I'm saying, knowledge of self or applying the knowledge of self that you acquire, conditions would be better. Like you said, you were talking about gentrification earlier. Gentrification wouldn't happen if the communities wasn't ran down.
Well, I mean, a lot of it's purposeful. The gentrification wouldn't happen, at least the way it's happening, if we actually understood the
nature
power of owning your own land, protecting your communities, investing in your communities. So, storefronts, supermarkets, hospitals, the basic core needs for a people outside of government.
Right.
We would know, we would do better. We, like you said, we mimic them. Like for all the impressiveness of the black boom towns, as I like to call them, the Black Wall Street on Tulsa, whether you're talking about Durham, North Carolina, whether you're talking about Rosewood, Florida, whether you're talking about Atlanta at one point, with all those things, all those places, we still try to mimic their culture. I find it ironic that when you, excuse me, that when you go back in time and you look to Black people, African people around the world, African people have always had a spiritual relationship with the Most High.
Mm-hmm.
And then you start to see like the rebellions. Dr. John Henrick Clarke, he talked about the rebellions. Denmark Vesey, Nat Turner, they found themselves in the scriptures, right? Now, I'm not a Christian. I've said that many times, but they found themselves in the scripture as it related to God, right? Which gave them a spiritual sense of fighting rebellion. We all know about the Haitian Revolution.
Mm-hmm.
The gathering of Waikiki Mountain. I believe that's how it's pronounced, Waikiki Mountain. And Bookman's Prayer. We know these things. That was part of what propelled a lot of our ancestors to be rebellious. If you look right now, we have devolved from having a spiritual connection. People talk about, a lot of people loosely talk about their connections to the ancestors, which I think is a cop-out in a lot of different reasons. And I'm not trying to disrespect anybody, but I think that we generally are a group of people right now that want to do our own thing. So we'll say silly stuff like being Black is not a monolith. But you understand that nothing racial is a monolith, but people get on code racially.
What talked about a code of conduct?
Yeah. The Irish were the last group to be acknowledged as white. Prior to that, the Italians had to be initiated into the culture of being white. You know what I'm saying? But they had to fight their way. Once they became that, then they became protected by that code of conduct that they shared under the umbrella of whiteness. So even as Black people here in America, we don't really have those types of divisions culturally. We pretty much all share a for lack of a better term, a foundational Black experience here in America. But yet and still, because we can't grow past our petty dislike, because we can't grow past our self-hate and disdain that we have for ourselves and each other, we'll go around and talk about how Black people are not a monolith, how we're a diverse culture within. Where the hell are we a diverse culture within?
Yeah. We are truly affected by what racism really did to us, what racism during slavery, racism after slavery. It really did a job on us. It really has done a job on us. So I want to say this, we said it before, say it again. We understand that there are a lot of people out there who have no idea what happened to them. We understand that. We understand that. So this is like always, it's mostly directed at the ones who call themselves woke and conscious and stuff, right? But we still have a percentage of the blame to take on in this, because after a while it becomes self-induced, and some of the behavior is just routine and stuff, and then we're not teaching better behavior. Even the ones who proclaim to be better are still indulging in bad behavior and unruly behavior and degrading behavior. Overall, we can see our lack of ability to unify. Of course, that's intentional. But once again, if you claim your light switch come on, we got to do better at unifying. We know we had some experiences not too long ago where the unity ain't come like it was supposed to come. You know what I'm talking about? Yeah. So ain't no sense to getting into the detail, but the unity ain't come like it was supposed to come. It was disappointing on the end because we need that. But I do understand that those are the effects of it, but we still have to work to overcome it. We still have to work to fight it. Like, if we can recognize that white people, if we can say white people are racist, if we can say that white people are racist, all right, like you said, well, what did we do about it? Did we just complain about it? What did we do about it? What are we doing about it? Because if you can articulate, if you can understand white people are racist, okay, so what are we going to do about it? What have we done about it? What do we plan on doing about it? So that means you understand at least a little bit enough. You understand enough to say, okay, well, these people right here treat us a specific way. So I don't like the way they treat us. So something has to change. Mm-hmm. But one of the things that is we waiting on white folk to change instead of changing ourselves. Understand the nature of your oppressor.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's not even the nature of our oppressor. Understand what the nature of enemy combatant is. Understand that, it's funny, this is war.
Yeah.
Negroes are afraid to use the word war because when you announce the fact that you're in a war, it changes how you're supposed to respond to an offense or an attack, how you're supposed to cover or work to protect what's yours, how you're supposed to push somebody off you, how you're supposed to make the enemy accountable for what you can do to it. Yeah. We got a lot of scared Negroes. They only tough when it comes to us, but they're afraid of that big white machine. And it's been beaten, epigenetically, as Patrick would say, into us for generations to fear white people. So, and when we have these moments of clarity, like, damn, we've been getting our behinds whooped for a long time and we ain't swinging back, but we'll swing at each other. It makes you understand that for all those people that say, I don't like to use the word white supremacy, well, unfortunately, a lot of Black people see them as supreme to us. So there's so much as so they don't even want to put up a fight when it comes to dealing with these Caucasoids who created this system of oppression or this system of pain, as we shall see.
I just thought, when you're saying that, you made me think about something. This is in concert with a lot of other areas in life. One of the big problems is too many of the good people are silent as well. Too many of the good people are not active. Too many of the other people who are actually decent people aren't really contributing much to the upliftment. Mm-hmm. And if you're not contributing to the upliftment, then you know what you're contributing to then.
Yeah. Well, lukewarm people are enemies too.
Right.
because they have made it plain that they haven't chosen the side yet. So they've already
Individualism,
told you that they work against you. You
rugged
know,
individualism.
yeah. Worse than rugged individualism, though, they are waiting to
Oh, you Robotron again.
they're off to the highest bidder who is not faithful
Oh,
or passionately with you.
you went Transformers on it. Say the beginning part again, if you remember.
I just paid this damn cable bill. I mean, this internet bill. Um, they have not shown any commitment to you because they very well may commit against you. So they're already your adversary. You can't trust them. I've been telling. It's funny, right? Because I'm thinking about the time, and I've been to Memphis many times. But the one time I went down and I got to enjoy Bill Street, which is very nice. It's like,
Hmm.
comparable to some bigger streets around the country, like Bourbon Street and so forth. But
Hmm.
Bill Street has a lot of Black history on it.
Right.
So you have a man by the name of Ernest Withers, I believe, who was the photographer of Dr. Martin Luther King. He was involved in I believe, like 50 to 60 years of the civil rights movement, but this dude was a damn informant.
Yeah, I saw you posted that.
Yeah, FBI and Memphis police, and who knows who else. He was off to the highest bidder, but he was in every room that Dr. King was in. He
Hmm.
was able to take pictures of meetings with other dignitaries that Dr. King met with. You know what I'm saying? And and see, this is one of the biggest reasons why I think we struggle with coming together is our enemies are walking amongst us.
Well,
Our saboteurs are walking amongst us.
they've mastered us. They've learned us. They've studied us for so long. They've helped contribute to the culture and the behavior that we have, and they've mastered us. That's why they know how to infiltrate us. That's how they know how to break down anything that we attempt to put together. That's why the statement, "If you build it, you must protect it," is vital. You have to protect what you build, but we have to, like you keep saying, we're at war, so we have to strategize and we have to think. If we're trying to build something to save ourselves, we have to think in a warlike manner and
Well,
understand that if it's anything of significance, that you will have opposition. So how will you protect it?
well, first thing we have to do is well, definitely first identify the rats, identify the snakes, and chop their damn heads off because they're the biggest reasons, the biggest saboteurs of anything we want to try to build. Um, and that's just and I don't and I'm gonna tell you, I don't see that happening with too many organizations these days. It's almost like nobody, as COINTELPRO never existed.
You
For
got to
all the
be
people who claim to be historians, they can't seem to grasp the fact you're supposed to learn from the history, not be the ones doomed to repeat it.
well, you got to be built different as well, right? To do something like that, to really go at the rats. So Queen Ranavalona the First of Madagascar, when she came to power, one of her biggest missions was to expel the Europeans and all European influence, and to she fought hard for her people to not fall under Christian influence and to convert to Christianity. And she would even go so far as to punish and eliminate Madagascar people from Madagascar. I don't know people from Madagascar who were accepting of the Christian faith, who were accepting of the European ways and the European culture. She was eliminating them. But of
Mm-hmm.
course, the white world labeled her as a terrorist. They labeled her as a tyrant and all these things. She wasn't. She understood. She understood enough of the enough to the degree that anybody who is upholding anything from our oppressors is in turn upholding the oppression. So they have to be dealt with. We ain't built like that these days. We're not built like that. We're built to forgive.
Yeah, or you know, some of us are just plain right, just yellow. What do they call it? You have a weak
Yellow bellies.
backbone, yellow belly, and
We build different. We're not the same. We're not the same. We have to admit we're not the same as our ancestors, and that's not in a good way. Like our ancestors, in many ways, are our wildest dreams. Yes, some ways we've achieved some things that our ancestors have dreamed about, but in a lot of ways, our ancestors are our wildest dreams.
yeah,
They
yeah.
were able to endure the unthinkable, and some ancestors were able to thrive during the unthinkable times when it was horrible for Black people in the United States, even before the United States was formed in this North American space that will become the United States. The 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 survival and the thriving when they wasn't supposed to, they were amazing. We are supposed to build upon that. I'm gonna keep saying that we're supposed to build upon that. We can't just keep trying to live off their glory. What are we doing? Because sooner or later, some of these children are going to ask, how did we contribute to the stories? And what are we going to tell
them? Nothing. You know, I mean, it's funny because, you know, the title of your franchise, On the Shoulders of Giants, should already state that we are working off of their work,
right?
and we're supposed to be adding foundationally to it. But you know, you had a relationship with a pretty well-known elder. I have relationships with pretty well-known elders, and what do they keep saying? We taught y'all what to do,
Now you
but
got to
we
do
need
something
for
with it.
y'all. It's time for y'all to do it.
Because one of the biggest things Dr. Rashidi was talking about, because we was just getting started too. He was just getting started. But one of the things he talked about was, making the information relevant for the young ones. Right now, the way a lot of the information is presented is not relevant to the young ones. And I'm even guilty of that. My audience is mostly people ages 35 to 65. Even though, especially my historical features, they are designed for the youth, I have to do a better job of appealing to the youth. Now, in my outside of YouTube, in my regular life, in my city and in my area, I'm touching the youth. I'm literally touching. Now, I would like this to touch the youth more, but I am happy that I get a chance to touch the youth. I'm on FAMU's campus. I'm on FSU's campus. I'm somewhere at least once a week. I'm with a teen group, either a group of teen young Black boys or young Black girls, or college students, young Black men, young Black women. I'm happy that I do get to do that, and that's the thing. To me, that's part of using this information. How are we giving it to the next generation? How are we helping them understand this information? One of the most useful tools that I've learned along my way is how to make information relevant. Really, that's one of my superpowers. I can take stuff and make it relevant. I've had to learn that in the path that I've taken in life, working at HIV/AIDS prevention. Like, I have to learn how to do that. But it's like when I'm talking to our youth and I'm talking to them about specific things, I noticed in the past when I would talk to them, they'll have that look on their face like, what is you talking about? That's because at the time I was talking at them. I wasn't talking to them. Like I heard I was listening to Obsidian one day and I heard a clip of one of the brothers who be speaking, and he was going in on some kids. He was talking straight at them, not to them. We have to do a better job of connecting with the youth as well. I did a man talk group not too long ago with some of the alphas or some of the young men who were trying to become a part of the Alpha fraternity on FAMU campus. It was a great discussion though. But one of the questions we asked them is, how can how can the older generation, how can the elders be better elders? Basically, how can we better communicate? How can we better connect with them? And one of the biggest things that they were talking about is we don't listen. We think we know, we really we think we know everything. We don't listen, and we believe that we should be given respect just because we're older.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a disconnect. There's already a disconnect to the youth. So trying to tell them, trying to give them this knowledge of self is going to be difficult if we keep contributing to the rift, because we're the older ones. So we should be contributing to closing the gap, not contributing to the rift, because we got to get our ass off our shoulders.
Yeah. Yeah, we're very arrogant and egotistical in the fact that, you know, we're really standing on the brink of our community's destruction. You know, a stiff breeze will destroy the foundation that we haven't built. And but yet and still you have people who want to feel, you know, accomplished. And it's just not dealing with the reality of it all. A lot of people invested a lot of time in who they became, but who they became was not of any substance to the people that it need to be any substance to.
Well,
So, you know, and by the way, y'all, Joe was talking metaphorically when he was talking about touching people. Um, like,
we giving knowledge, giving knowledge,
giving knowledge,
giving knowledge.
reaching out.
Yes, giving knowledge.
So it's one of those things where I think we just have to be honest. I mean, I told you one of the inspirations for the Independence Day project came from having a conversation with a group of high schoolers and having them asking me, well, what are you going to do about it? What are we going to do? And so I and seeing that and understanding that and learning that's what they were saying, I had to I had to refocus my questions to other people, because the purpose of the Independence Day Project was the children.
Mm-hmm.
If anybody has ever seen the Independence Day Project, children are laden through the entire film, because we need to make sure that there's a future for our children. We still got time. If we work now, we're behind the ball and we're behind the gun. But we
Yeah.
still have time if we drop all of our differences. Not all of them, but the majority of them.
But yeah,
And we come together.
they're going to have to be dropped, but we're going to have to do a better job of connecting with our youth. We're going to have to, we have to do better at that, at connecting with our youth. We have to do better at respecting our youth.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm gonna be real. Like, it's some olders that I encounter, and like like today, me and one of my coworkers at work was having a conversation, and you know, that's my dog, so I'm always encouraging her. Like, she real cool person. I'm always encouraging her, and she was talking about, you know, in a specific area in her life, having trepidation about getting, you know, metaphorically getting back on the bike and riding again, because she was afraid of falling, metaphorically. So getting back out there and going after what she wants. And, you know, I was telling her, you can't be afraid to fail. Like, you just can't be afraid to fail. Matter of fact, you have to understand that failure is going to be a part of it. But what did you learn from your failure? And so this older lady about 55, the lady I was talking to is 54. The lady who jumped in our conversation was 55. So she jumped in the conversation and was basically just like trying to sun me and tell me that I was wrong, and then went back and told her the same thing I said, just said it different. But then, you know, the conversation persists, and she went on to try to tell me that I was arrogant and I don't listen and I'm not going to prosper in life. And, you know, I'm definitely pushing back. I'm not being disrespectful, not being rude, but I'm definitely pushing back, because, you know, as an older person, first of all, you don't just jump in folk conversation like that. Now, we don't mind you contributing to the conversation, but it's how you enter into the conversation. And then you enter into the conversation and you're not even listening. You don't have the skill to listen. And then she basically went straight to sign language. Straight to sign language when she realized that I'm not going to allow you to just say a specific thing and just say that, just throw it out there like that. Words have meaning. Certain things have meaning. You can't tell me that I don't listen. You can't tell me that I'm arrogant. You can't tell me all these different things, because if I know what I'm talking about, you stand on your square. You stand on your square if you know what you're talking about. But it's like, it was the exchange was, for me, another strike on the wall, or another match of, well, this is why definitely another reason why my generation have a problem, not me in particular, but a lot of people in my generation have a problem with the respect for some of the elders. And then, because me and the lady that I was originally talking to, we both acknowledged after a while later on the day that, yeah, that lady kind of, she was wild. She was wild. But it's the exchange could have went better if her approach was better, because I love learning, and I love evolving in things, but I don't care how old you are or who you are. Respect has to be given. Respect has to be given, and you can't just expect respect because you lived 60 years. In 60 years, you should have learned how to give respect as well. That's what a lot of these children are talking about. A lot of these children, and especially the generation under us, one of their biggest issues is they don't get respect from the older generation. And I'm like, well, we got to do better at respecting them. Whether we like it or not, we got to do better at respecting them. And they would be better if we would have taught them better.
That part, and there's certain things like the way people talk to us is very disrespectful.
Yeah.
And we have a lot of people who want to mammy us, and in terms of the way respect is given, and that goes down generation. I mean, one of the things you said that I agree with. I agree with just about everything you said, but one of the things in particular is the connectivity.
Mm-hmm.
And in our community, there's no connection.
Right.
When do we have spaces where the elders are and the children? There's no spaces. We've removed, families have become more and more separated. We no longer have 2 and 3 generations under one roof, which is probably going to change now because, economically the situation is getting tight. But
I have to go back.
yeah, but we don't have we don't have people who are actually connected. So how do you deal with the people who are not connected, who don't practice a culture that's shared, who don't have a common code of conduct in terms of who should be talking and when? For instance, there's a thing where, an African tradition, if there's elders in the room, you ask the elders for permission to speak. You know what I'm saying? And then once that's granted, that's the elders showing you the mutual respect.
Mm-hmm.
And those are things, customs that we don't share anymore. We don't have anymore outside of very small enclaves of Black people meeting in this particular country specifically, that, the community could benefit from. But a lot of us shy away from the workers, Africans. And now we're dealing with the situation where we can't talk to each other. And and this goes all the way back to the Willie Lynch policies that were passed out before the Willie Lynch speech was given. And yeah, I'm not getting into whether or not it trust and believe other people have researched the man, and they have
Yeah.
validated the fact that Willie Lynch was a real person. So uh, there is it was a constant battle, a constant effort to maintain the division in black families.
Right.
Ageism was one of them.
Right.
You know what I'm
Separate
saying?
everything.
Yeah. So light skin, dark skin, you
Everything.
know, male versus female, elder versus youth, you know what I'm saying? House slave versus field slave. Any particular difference that could be magnified was taken into account. The bad part about this is nearly everybody knows this, and they still go on as business as usual.
Yep. Yep. This is the way it's always been. We should just do it because this has always been. I hate to hear grown people say that as if you don't have the ability to change. You have the ability. We have the ability to change. We do. We walk around here calling ourselves gods, but then telling ourselves what we can't do. Then you ain't no God. Then
The
if you're
irony.
telling me you can't, if you're telling me you can't change your behavior, if you're telling me you can't have a paradigm shift as far as a mental change, if you're telling me we can't change our situation, don't tell me you're a God.
You know, that's you see, even that conversation, it's like we're not functioning like a people who know who they are,
Right.
and we refuse to learn who we are.
But it's
And
yeah, I'm sorry, go ahead. My bad.
no, we'd rather be a bunch of ninjas. That's comfortable. We'd rather be a bunch of, we rather, focus all our time into leisure. We don't want to focus on the hard work. This is once again, the arrested development. We want to be children to the world, but we want to be treated with the dignified respect that comes with being adults. It doesn't work. You got to pick and choose your battle.
Yeah.
And, you know, being entitled is the opposite end of being accountable. And when you're accountable, that means you have to take up responsibility for the things that go well and also the things that are not going so well that need to be fixed. It's
Yeah.
um it's sad because this is cool doing it here. You get to reach people that you probably wouldn't have met in real life.
Yeah. Yeah.
But we
Yeah.
know 95 to 98% of our work is happening in the real world.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the real work, this is for us to get the message out and to be able to connect to other people who are doing the real work. But the real work is in the streets. The real work is in your communities, right? But
Mm-hmm.
once again, one of my issues is we are a lot more knowledgeable today. Well, I say this, we have a lot more access to our history, our information today. And because we can see it shared through social media all over the place. So people have some idea of something. I'm not saying they fully understand it, but they have some idea of something. But then you get the people who on our end who use the information for scamming purposes.
Mm-hmm.
Some people who get the information and their ego inflates. Some people who get the info and they are, I would say, misusing the information as far as to try to become somebody. You know, yeah, it's a lot of stuff going on, and to me, that's my biggest issue. It's not the people who don't know. It's the people, once again, the people who know, the people in this so-called conscious community, and are literally misusing the information or trying to grandstand with the information, or even beefing with people because you have a disagreement with their ideologies. Why are we beefing? Because you disagree with somebody and you trying to attack somebody and tear them down because you disagree with them.
Well, this is a political arena. This is politics. I mean, we're talking politics, racial politics. We're talking politics. And you know what the saying is? The old saying is politics is an arena for people who want to be stars but don't necessarily have the talent to be in Hollywood. So we have a lot of people who are in here who don't necessarily have the best of intentions. They're not
Right.
operating out of good faith.
Right.
So, you know, the fake beefs, you know, the manipulation of pulling the emotional the emotional strings of people, the emotional heartstrings that people have. All those different things are functions of dysfunctional people.
Right.
Also, selfish people. We go back to the rugged individualism, but there's a little nihilism in that with it, you know, with that as well. We have some people who don't give a damn about the benefit of the whole, as long as they personally benefit. You know, for the most part, when you even think about the fact that you have pastors in the churches and the communities are falling apart. And I'm not just saying this to pick on the church, but it is what it is. You can have a beautiful, pristine building and everything's manicured, but the community around it's falling apart. And expect for people to not see through the the inconsistency there with your
Well,
message.
at least the churches can get buildings.
Yeah, well,
I'm not saying
so
I'm not praising what they're doing, but that shows you from the people who are supposed to know better, people we're supposed to be enlightened. Our switch is supposed to be on. We can't even figure out how to get buildings, but at least the Christians getting buildings.
yeah, well, the pastors getting buildings, the pastors getting
But
multi-million-dollar jets. The
I'm just
pastors are
saying,
getting fat off of this here. You know, the church is like one of the only foolproof, like recession-proof industries out there. But at the same time, there's there's just no collective accountability or responsibility to the people that look like you. And because we have so much of that, I mean, people talk about the spending power, and I don't want to get into the spending power. We, it wouldn't matter. You give us twice that, we would just give it back because we're not going to invest it in ourselves.
yeah, yeah. It's because it's deeper than having the money. It's the mentality of the people who have the money. And right
Mhm.
now, our mentality isn't a mentality of unity. It's a mentality of selfishness. The individual, me, myself, and I.
I
So
mean,
if they gave out reparations today, stuff still wouldn't really get better.
nah. I mean, there would be a few of us that understood what to do with them, but for the most part, you know, it would be the end of that conversation. Um, but you know, I want to answer Dr. Clarke's question. What do we tell the children? We tell the children that we have minds of children ourselves, that they only exist because we wanted to bring them into the world for our own benefit, that we have the selfish need to make sure that we enjoy the leisure of an impoverished people, a people who are not working towards their collective power, but a people who would rather put the power in the hands of their sworn enemies and the enemies that you know enslaved us and buck broke us and you know raped us and all sorts of things, you know, and made sure that we were locked out of this particular system of wealth and power and influence. The same people that robbed us of our culture, the robbed us of our language and our spiritual systems, the same people that robbed us of our dignity, we're allowing them to be the ones that's going to determine the future for our children. So that's what we're going to do for the children. We're not going to fight for our children to have access to, forget access. We should be providing the academics and the education for our children. But that means we would have to learn it too. And we're too simplified. We're too simple of a people to feel as though I need to do all that work. I don't need to learn culturally the things that are important to us. In this day and time, a time of information and so forth, and access to it, you know, within the palm of our hands, we choose to do the latter. We choose to allow the, the system, the man, to basically walk us around like the Pied Piper. And you know what the Pied Piper did with the children?
Hey, hey. So I wanna build off of what Dr. Clarke asked. Dr. Clarke asked, what will we tell our children? I think that's our mission for our generation and above. We have to give our children stories of
Oh, that
glory,
was me or
stories
that
of
was you,
victory.
but it just froze.
Oh, it froze a bit. Oh, you can hear me better now?
Yeah, you might have to say, yeah, you're good now.
Okay. Okay, well, we we have to tell our children victorious stories. We have to tell our children glorious stories. We have to tell our children empowering stories. But the only way to do that is to make that happen. So my question for future generations, well, my question for my generation, because my generation, now we got two questions. We got two questions. I just gave us two questions. What will we tell our children? And what will we show our children? And my generation and moving forward, what will we show our children?
Mhm.
How do we build off of what has already happened? And tangibly, what what will we have to show them that we actually did productive
Mhm.
Independence Day project? So
Well,
yeah,
just two questions. The question, what does an independent Black community free of white supremacy look like to you? And then what do we have to do to build it?
I'm just saying. But I just thought that was a very powerful question. What will we tell our children? And all types of thoughts came through my mind
Mhm.
of, well, like you said, if we being honest, if right now we have to tell our children about us as African people, not just historically, but in America, what we have to tell our children. We have some good to tell. We do have some good, but as of late, since the 70s, we don't have a lot good to tell. Now we have hope that some of us can get together and do some changes, some things around. So we have some great things to show our children, along with telling our children. But of course, it goes past just what we're doing here. Um, once again, whatever you do, whatever your talent, whatever your purpose, whatever your skill, whatever you can do, however you can contribute, get out and contribute within your communities. And then let's link so we can do greater communities. So we can make sure we actually contribute in not just in this space, but in our local communities, our local areas, but in our everyday lives as well. Because I'm gonna be real, it's disappointing that at least since the 70s, we don't have a lot of good stuff to tell our children. I'm not saying we don't have any good at all, but we don't have as much good as we should have. And we should take the charge to stand on the shoulders of our ancestors and not try to live off the glory of our ancestors. How do we add to the glory that our ancestors gave us? Joseph Ward, Professor Carl Tone Jones. Is how we do what we do. We back next week. Holla at us.